How many of you want to give up? Okay. The other way is to say, okay, how do we do it? How do we take back our country? How do we put with liberty and justice for all on the American flag? That's the Pledge of Allegiance, isn't it? That's the way it ends. How do we put we the people back into reality? That's the way the Constitution starts, doesn't it? Let's start with the corporation. Okay? Here's how to do it. There's 600,000 plus people in each congressional district. Congress is the most powerful branch of the three branches of government. They don't like to use it, but you look at the Constitution: taxes, appropriation, war declaring power, so on, health, safety standards. If 1,500 corporations pretty much control 535 men and women, what if 2,000 people in each congressional district decided to get serious about their country and their world? And let's say they all got together and they agreed on an agenda of first stage improvements in our country. A lot of what Europe has now, Western Europe, a lot of what I just mentioned. You know, 1 out of every 3 workers doesn't earn a living wage. Does anybody in this country, other than a few ideologues, believe that you work full-time and you can't support the basic necessities of life on Walmart wages? Okay, so we have, let's say we have a 12-point agenda. Aren't you tired right now? You gotta be tired right now. You got the strongest knees I've ever seen in your life. Yeah, thank you. All right, so they get together and they say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to pledge 200 hours volunteer time a year. We've got this 12 redirections program. We know that it's long overdue. We know that it should have been here years ago. And by the way, the minimum wage in 1968 is higher than it is today. Adjusted for inflation would be $10 an hour. The federal minimum wage is $6.55. So we're going backwards in the future. And we know that the majority of people are behind these 12 redirections in our congressional district. We're going to pledge 200 serious volunteer hours a year. That's 5 hours a week. 4 hours a week. No big deal. You know, it's like watching a pro football game once a week. We're going to raise $200 each, and we're going to open 3 offices in the district with 3 full-time people that we're going to hire to provide the continuity week after week, because, you know, we got jobs and other things. We'll add 200 volunteer hours. And then we're going to have an announcement. And we're going to say to our 2 senators and representative, you will show up at a certain time when you're not in session at a certain auditorium in our district. And we're going to present our agenda. And you know what we're going to call it? It's going to be called an ultimatum. No more Americans are going to die because of lack of health insurance. Now just think, in those 2,000 people, what are you likely to have in terms of talent? Lawyers, accountants, graphic artists, organizers, people who know how to raise children and have done it. You will have people who know the history of the district. All kinds of talents you'll have. Computer types, you have all kinds of talents. Then you pick 3, very rigorous selection, full-time people. In addition, 3 offices. They are the heartbeat of the district. They know everything going on that the members of Congress wouldn't want you to know. They will know exactly what your 2 senators did at 11 o'clock on Tuesday on the Senate floor that they don't want you to know about. And they can relay it to all the people in the district through the internet and the email list. Once this is done with every congressional district, I guarantee you from a deep knowledge of Congress, 80% of that list you'll have in 18 months. You know why? Because there's only one thing, ultimately, a member of Congress wants. More than corporate money, more than media, your vote. And you can say, you're going to have a tough primary candidate. You're going to have a tough opponent. You're going to have to really sweat it out. It's not stay in those watering holes around Washington, D.C. You're going to have to come out all over the district. And I assure you that they will either quit or they'll shape up. And I've seen them shape up in the 60s and 70s. Some of the worst senators became the greatest champions of consumer protection in American history, like Senator Warren Magnuson from Washington State, because of the heat back home, the rumble, and they weren't even organized like I'm talking about. This is the anti-war and the pro-civil rights and so on. And they got a little scared that it was going to sweep them away. Now, there are far more difficult things Americans do than organize Congress action groups in every congressional district, as I've described. They raise children. You want anything more difficult than that? They rescue children from the streets. You want anything more difficult than that? They overcome injuries, accidents. They have to hold down a job or two jobs and take care of an ailing grandparent or a parent. So they should never say to themselves, oh, this is too difficult. It's different, but not too difficult. We just don't grow up civically involved. We don't learn civic skills in elementary school, in high school, college, not to mention law school. We don't learn how to use the Free Information Act, how to build coalitions, how to put on a successful news conference, how to dig stuff up out of City Hall. We don't learn how to not be discouraged, to be resilient, to bounce back, to make your last defeat your best teacher. These are all civic skills forging a civic personality. You remember Michael Jordan, the basketball player? There are at least 10 members of the NBA who are as skilled as he was physically. Why was he different? He had what was called the unrelenting athletic personality of never wanting to give up until it's over. That's what drove it for that final basket. Well, that's what we have to develop as a civic personality, because we're very prone to getting discouraged and demoralized. And we have these spurts. I know in studying civic activity around the country, there's a new team every 5 years. Hey, where's the old team? Oh, they just got burnt out. No, this is the kind of group that wouldn't get burnt out. It would have its festivals, its music, it would have its social activities, but it would have one laser beam to the two senators and the representative. And the message is, here the people rule. That is what will turn all this around. Whether it's the military budget, whether it's the tax system, you cannot believe how fast they move. And if it's all done together, organized, quick, not one at a time, healthcare this year, 3 years later, tax reform. That's not the way you stampede Congress in the direction of the people. It's got to be all at once. A massive transformation, long overdue, of the United States of America. And it would be so much more efficient. And it would be so much more sustainable, and so much more humane, and so much more respectful of your children and grandchildren. What is this young generation going to say to their grandchildren, say 45 years from now? When that 9-year-old sitting on your knee just left the toys behind, and she or he are aware that something isn't right with the world, and it looks you in the eye and says, Grandma, Granddaddy, where were you? What were you doing when the world was falling apart? What are you going to tell them?
Standing up with Ralph Nader.
What's this? That's what you should tell them. But you don't want to tell them that you were too busy updating your profile on Facebook. Okay? So, let me just conclude on this note. You can get more of the details on our website. They're basically all the things that you've wondered why we don't have in this country. And you know a lot of your own state problems. colleagues.